being able to identify those, having a network alongside of me to mentor me and give me ideas and bounce ideas off of it is absolutely huge in this industry. So you have to have those people around you to support. They have to give you, they have to provide you with good information. And Man, failure is growth, in my opinion.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Particle Accelerator podcast, where we talk to future-thinking business leaders about how to grow their business and accelerate their team. I'm here with John, and John, why don't you introduce yourself?
How's it going, Ben? Thanks so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Good. So, my name's John Hamilton. I spent 13 years in the military. I got out and pursued a long career now, it seems like, in the moving industry, which pushed me into a bunch of different verticals. So I also have a platform called Tighten Up Training, which is a training platform for the entire moving industry, from sales leadership to mover training to compliance, all that stuff. We've got a bunch of different verticals in the moving industry. So now we're in talks to basically roll our company up into private equity and continue our growth and get out of the industry. We'll get out of the moving business, but stay in the industry. So it's been an exciting journey.
Interesting. Lots to talk about there. That's really cool. Well, first off, thank you for your service. Appreciate it. I come from a military family, so my dad was in the Navy for 10 years. My brother did a tour in Iraq, but didn't stay in for much longer than the initial tour. And then my brother is still in the military. He's about to retire out. He's a chief warrant officer in the Army and has been all over the world, Germany for many years, Korea for many years, and now he's in Alaska. So lots of respect for your service. Thank you.
Absolutely appreciate it, man.
But what I love to do to get to know folks is just really ask, like, what was your first job? How did you make your first dollar? For me, it was a paper route. But I'm curious, like, how'd you make your first dollar when you were a kid?
Oh man, I think our first, let's see, I think I'd stepped in to be a busboy. I mean, outside of the lemonade stand, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think I was a busboy.
cool. Well, what toy or hobby did you have as a child that inspired what you do career-wise today?
Um, Man, I had all kinds of superheroes growing up. So I think that's really what inspired me in the military aspect. My dad was also in the military. So GI Joes and Jeeps and trucks and all kinds of stuff like that. Superman and
For
growing
sure.
up is always the dream.
Yeah, for sure. I was a big GI Joe fan myself. Um, cool. So, what branch did you serve in?
I was in the Air Force.
Okay, Air Force. So you're one of the smart guys that went into the military. I'm just kidding. Uh,
I don't know about that.
this is great. I love I love the camaraderie or the joking stereotypes around the different branches. My dad would have this joke. He'd say, how do how do Marines put on deodorant, and he'd spray in the air and wave his arm over it, just lots of fun jokes in our house, being my dad being a Navy guy. Um, well, what quote from a famous person lives in your mind rent free?
Um, Man, I actually just had a blog written about me and recently, and the thing that lived in my mind as I went through selection, I went through boot camp. I was in special operations, so I did multiple selections to get to basically the top 1% of the community. And a moment of sacrifice is worth a lifetime of glory. And I told myself that many, many times through challenging situations, not only personally, but professionally. So that is, it's one that stands out, always has been, was written on my mirror when I woke up in the morning, every morning before I left for the military and training and the tough times. I told myself that. So it's always
That's
there.
very cool. That's cool. So, tell me more about that. The special operations. how do you go from Air Force to Special Ops? Is there a particular group that you then get included into or selected into?
Yeah, so the Air Force has a couple different special operations career fields. Basically, the when I went in, they were called the battlefield airmen. So you had pararescuemen, combat controllers, you had TAC-Ps, and so I signed up to be a pararescueman. I always had a big vision for medicine and helicopters. That was kind of my thing. I danced around with, looking at the Army, looking at the Navy, looking at the Coast Guard. Had my eyes on the Coast Guard rescue swimmer for a long time, and then I found about pararescue. And little did I know what I got myself into going into selection. So I spent 2 years of my life battling through that with one of the highest attrition rates in the entire DoD. Um, and then I loved it. I loved my career. It was some of the most fun I ever had in my life. The camaraderie, the brotherhood. And then there was another jump, and that was the tip of the spear to go work with the guys you see in the movies, right? So I prepared myself. I had to get letters of recommendation from commanders and get accepted up there in North Carolina. And you went to a selection course again, and a full psychological screening and all the fun jazz that goes with that. And lo and behold, I was one of the few that got selected, and spent the last 5 years of my career in North Carolina. Just training to execute high value missions.
That's really cool. So, is there a name for that final tier?
So it is the 724th Special Tactics Group out of North Carolina.
That's really cool. So awesome. My CEO coach is a former Green Beret special operator. So inside of our company, we talk a lot about being special operators. So rather than the asset of labor, the asset of skill, and being trained in training. So there's a lot of influence um, from that kind of special operations culture inside of our collective software development culture. So love just love the learning that comes from that, from the idea of being selected. Um, what's the I guess the marketing slogan is you don't apply, you prove.
Mm.
And so that's super cool. Well, I'm excited to uh, ask you some of our other standard questions, and it's specifically about your industry. So you're in the moving hauling industry. What tech trend significantly impacted you or your industry, and how did your company respond?
That's a great question. The moving industry is really a dinosaur. And you're seeing a lot of companies now that are maintaining status quo, while a lot of new people are coming into the field. And I think that right now is a pivotal time for them, especially with AI and all these other things that are other capabilities, software capabilities, data, that you're able to leverage now, and almost have a moving company that's asset free. And this is, having relationships throughout the country with actual moving companies, that you're able to source leads and book services and manage moves. Um, and that's one of the biggest leaps that I've seen technology wise, is the move management softwares that are out there, in order to basically, from a lead to booked, through customer service, through booking carriers, to really making sure that the client is taken care of from the start. It's been a really cool revolution. I've been trying to work my way more and more every day into that, and make sure we have what we need to support us.
Yeah, and what is so you're talking about really the SaaS, the software as a service. There are now software as a service packages that you pay what monthly per user.
Mhm.
Um, and is there one that you found is kind of taking the lead?
So there's a couple right now. Smart Moving is one of them. I know they just took a big private equity um, fund that came in, and I guess they scooped them up. I don't know the exact intricacies of that, but I know there's a lot of development going on behind the scenes. But one of my favorite, and I actually don't use them yet, is Supermove. And Supermove is probably one of the leading edge development teams that I've seen. They're very aggressive. They say what they do, they mean what they say, and they take their customers' feedback and they put it to action. And I've got a strategic partnership with them from our mover training side, that they're now developing AI into their sales training platform and checklists, so that they're listening to the sales team, basically all the way down to not even having to input the information in the system, that the software is generating the conversation, summarizing it, and putting it all in the CRM, and basically building out just about everything that they need for the sales process. Meanwhile, it's feeding them information on rebuttals. It's feeding them information on, you forgot to talk about this, you forgot to ask that. So Supermove is, I think, going to be one of the biggest ones that comes in the next couple of years as they continue to develop.
Really cool. Yeah, really cool. I built a software called DockWorks for folks that work on boats. You couldn't, there were all these like automotive repair software SaaS tools, similar to what Supermove is to users. There were other things for automotive, but like they'd ask you, well, like, is the engine a V6, how many cylinders are in an engine? And then people are looking at their boat going like, my boat has 3 engines. How do I use this software? And so just the uniqueness of being able to model parts and materials around boats was not being done. And so we ended up building DockWorks, and then we sold it to DockMaster, just simply because they already knew the user base, and it was just, a perfect fit. So, yeah, just really cool how the SaaS revolution has really gotten very niche softwares, to take care of things. A buddy of mine works for Hauler Hero, which is specifically for sanitation. Another buddy of mine works at House Call Pro for people who do really any kind of home services or visit the home. It's really cool how even the landscaper friends have a particular niche software. So really cool for you to call that out.
Yeah.
Um, what are 3 technology innovations you're betting on to drive your business growth? Or what are some additional technology innovations that you think are impacting the moving and hauling industry, knowing full well that you're right, it is a dinosaur, like a robot's not going to be able to lift a box anytime soon. But what kinds of things are you seeing beyond that?
I mean, obviously the elephant in the room is AI. But I think the customer acquisition is really changing right now. The standard marketing is obviously, it's never going to die. Well, I don't want to say never, right? Never to say never, but it's not dying anytime soon when as far as procuring clients. But there's proactive ways that with data available now that is huge. From scraping lists to getting people's information that come to your website. And these are kind of, I think in the technology world, it's kind of like this is old news, but in the moving world, this is just catching up. Um, so it's interesting to see the shift in how people are acquiring clients. So I think that we've got a lot to learn from you guys. We really do, on the customer acquisition side, that's truly applicable to our business. And I think a lot of us get so consumed on the operational side that we don't even know what's out there. So I would personally love to learn more, and how to continue to grow the business, scale the business, maintain profits, and um,
hmm
you know,
I mean, it
continue to leverage.
yeah, it's so competitive that the big part of the first problem is, how do I get on the first page of Google? And so I just did a quick moving, there's probably a bunch of keywords, but I just did a quick Google on moving. And yeah, definitely the people who are buying that top spot, whether it be a sponsored Google search or um, uh, just making sure that their relationship with Google is super clean, is super important. And then beyond that, you have the reviews, right? Like just doing whatever it takes to accumulate um, the number of reviews. I mean, that's probably top of your mind when you're training people on how to grow their business.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we do a lot of Google optimization. There's all kinds of ways now that, to implant metadata onto photos to really get the impressions, and Google really, ranking your profile. But some of the things that I've talked about is with other companies is that, everyone looks at service-based companies. You look at plumbers, you look at electricians, you look at, for instance, Service Titan, right? I think it's probably one of the competitors of one of your buddies, the House Call Pro. Um, they don't lump in movers into this the circle, right? We're kind of the redheaded stepchild, if you will. And it's funny. And I think it's just because the industry is so complex. And people think it's a couple guys in a truck. You show up, you move stuff, and you put it down. When there's a lot of logistical stuff that goes on. It's a crafted skill to truly know how to be efficient and effective in moving a house. So it's again, I love learning from the other service-based industries, the technologies that they're using, their marketing sources, and how they're continuing to advance their companies, because I have to find a ways that it's applicable to continue making us relevant in the market today.
And what would you say is the biggest challenge to maintaining your competitive edge?
The biggest challenge right now is the rising prices, the cost of doing business, honestly. Interest rates are going up when you're financing vehicles. Vehicles are getting more expensive, labor is getting more expensive, insurance is getting more expensive, the cost of real estate is getting more expensive. I mean, there's really nothing that is
And customers want to pay less, right?
and
So they're getting pressure from both sides, right? There's somebody else
yeah,
willing to do it for less, maybe not
yeah,
as good quality and as good service, but yeah.
yeah. It's funny because I had a conversation the other day with my partner, and you know 3-4 years ago you'd have moves booked out 2-3 months. And the pattern with the here and now and the new culture of people with Amazon and all these other things is we don't book, we're lucky if we book out 2 weeks now. So before, you used to have this nice landscape of seeing, okay, we're going to have a good November, December, or January, right? You can at least forecast how your business is going to go. And now it's very difficult. You never know. It could turn on a dime. How it's the next week we get a price and a spike in interest rates, and you're close to going out of business. So it's a very dynamic and challenging business nowadays compared to what it used to be.
Yeah. Um, well, how do you advise people through that? I mean, obviously you're now teaching people how to run a profitable moving business. You mentioned you were selling your brand because you created a solid business. So tell us more about that. Um, that obviously you've cracked the code in some way.
It's it, it all boils down to managing your overhead, making smart decisions, and not making emotional decisions. You have to be data driven. You have to know what your customer acquisition costs are. You have to know the market cap of your local market, and then from there, what is your next step? Once you hit a market cap, are you going to buy another franchise, or are you going to buy another or set up another licensed partnership? Or are you going to do it yourself and set up another space somewhere else, or are you going to try to go nationally and maybe partner with other companies as an agent, as a almost a van line model? So it's effectively figuring out what your model is that you want to pursue, figuring out those KPIs, and making sure that you're making rational decisions based off the information that you have and not how you feel. And knowing particularly in what markets that you're in, there's always a season. So there, you may have 10 months out of the year that you make profits. You might have 2 months out of the year where you lose substantially, so you have to figure out the weight and balance there on making sure that you're even across the board, not taking up, too much money in the summer and buying your Ferrari or whatever some of these guys do. And next thing you know, they're going out of business in December because they're 50, $100,000 in the hole. So, it, KPIs, being smart, making rational decisions, and having somebody along side of you to advise and bounce ideas off of is pivotal.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. Um, when you're in that, in that war room, when you're discussing, how do you connect your plans and your roadmaps and what you want to do and set goals with your overall business strategy? Tell us a little bit. How do you approach business strategy? Because you obviously have a great operational mind, but curious how you plan for the future. Is there any methodologies or frameworks that you use?
Um, I this is a tough one for me, and I want to maybe it's just my lack of being I guess I am blue collar, right? So the biggest thing that I've always been able to fall back on is the knowledge that I acquired in the military. And I always saw how applicable it was in business because that's all the military is a big corporation. Um, every position has a role and responsibility. Everybody has a reporting directive. Everybody has a commander. And at the end of the day, if that chain of command is broken, the process breaks, there's problems. And that is my biggest factor. As every time I built a position or I put somebody in a position, I had to give them a workflow. I had to give them a chain of command of how to escalate, so that I wasn't getting, as in the military we called it helmet fire. A bunch of people talking to you at once, to figure out how to solve problems, and really creating a culture in your company that you standing by your team to fail, because ultimately sometimes they have to fail in order to figure out a true solution and know what those consequences of a decision might be. But you're also weighing that with what is the how bad is this failure, right? Before you need to step in. And it's been huge for us to make sure that we let people fail, that we always support them, and that we mentor and we groom them through that problem, and that they have the resources next time to solve that same exact issue so we don't repeat that.
Love it. Love it. So what lessons have you learned from failure? Like, have you ever gone through something that failed to deliver the expected results, and what did you learn from that?
Oh yeah, man, I made so many mistakes, my first year, 2 years in business. Yeah, I mean, really, I think coming into business, marketing is always the big thing, right? We all throw money into marketing, and we don't know anything about it. We don't know who's who in the zoo per se. We don't know who's the good SEO guy. We don't know who the PPC guy is. So there was a lot of failure points. There's a lot of wasted money, not knowing KPIs, how to manage payroll, and employment costs, ultimately ending at a loss at the end of the month because you're incorrectly managing that stuff. So I had a lot of failures, right? But being able to identify those, having a network alongside of me to mentor me and give me ideas and bounce ideas off of it is absolutely huge, in this industry. So you have to have those people around you to support. They have to give you, they have to provide you with good information. And Man, failure is growth, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love it. I think one of my hard lessons on the marketing side was you go talk to a marketer, they say, okay, well, tell me about your business. And then they just simply put pen to paper or, they write your copy based on what you told them. So the copy comes out really like we do this, we do that, where really you're kind of the center of your story. And then I read Donald Miller's book, Building a Story Brand. And they say, well, you're the guide. Like your brand is the guide. The customer is the hero. And so the power of you based messaging, you need, your home to be moved. You want to do it safely. You care about your stuff. You want to arrive on schedule. Here's all the things I'm telling the user, and they're like, "Yep, that's what I need. That's what I need. That's what I need." Rather than this alternative, which is really describe, we're expert movers. Well, okay, great, but do I need that? Like, you're causing this cognitive load for them to translate their need to you describing yourself. I must have spent, probably 50 grand on a all new website, all new marketing copy, only to learn that the direction of it, the tense of it was totally wrong. Um, and consequently, once I reversed course, threw that in the trash, reversed course, and started using you-based value messaging, instant results. Like, it was like night and day. And now I'm navigating the internet going like, these people got it, those people don't. And because the words, of around you-based messaging, value-based messaging are jumping off the page at me. Like, not only do I see it, it's kind of like owning a car of a particular model. Now you see all the other cars of that same model. But it's also just way more powerful. So, yeah. Any lessons come to your mind on the marketing side?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny, the car, this is the red car theory, right? Um, the, it's the what you're saying really rings a bell more so in sales for me than it is in marketing, although it's obviously very important. We're painting a picture for the client on the marketing side. But ultimately, I always say that marketing is what gets them to the door, sales is what gets them in the door. Um, and your value propositions and listening to your client are the biggest and most important things. I actually was reading an article last night that showed that a sales rep that listens 53% of the conversation is significantly more, um, their close ratio is going to be significantly higher versus the rep that talks a lot by trying to tell the
Mhm.
client how great they are and all these other things. So for me, it's really understanding your client's needs, solving a problem for them, and telling them how you're going to do it and how you're going to do it better. Um, because I could go and I could sell you a Ferrari on the lot and tell you how great it is, but if you don't want a Ferrari, then what? I just wasted my entire time. So it's really coaching those guys and telling them to listen, take notes, set yourself up for the close, because during that 10% of your last portion of that conversation, it should be hammering down everything they told you and all their pain points that they have, um, that they just spewed at you for the last 15 minutes. And how do you solve those problems? How do you reassure them that they're not going to happen again? And they're going to ask you to give you their credit card. Um, but it works hand in hand with how you convey that message on the marketing side and how you display that you're different and you're professional. Like having a cartoon on the side of your truck versus a premium luxury brand. What is your target clientele, your target market? What are you trying to accomplish? So those things all have to be so in tune on a daily basis, just to make sure that you're successful.
Yeah, totally good. Yeah, I early in my career, I started a travel company, and we had a brand called Discount Hotels. And so we SEO optimized it, and this was back in the early 2000s. So when we SEO optimized it, it looked pretty ugly. It just had a bunch of like city names, Cincinnati hotels and all these cities listed, and then they're just kind of indexed at the bottom of the page. We were really trying to mess with the algorithm, and we would sell 100 room nights a day. Like, it was just doing great. The brand was Discount Hotels. The look of it was very discount looking, and eventually, like, the board wanted to see it be a marquee brand, and so a redesign happened. After that redesign, making it look more luxury, honestly, I don't think it ever hit like 50 ever again. And it was really the branding, the Discount Hotels branding matched the look of the Discount Hotel site. And to go polish it up, it was that the anti pattern of the particular brand, and it never really recovered.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't see something that was like discount and look very luxury. It just didn't match. So that
Yeah.
totally resonated with me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's funny because now, you learn every day in business, and it's not that I want to go start a new company now and that focuses on luxury, but I personally think brands evolve, and you have to be very careful how you evolve. Because we do a lot of designer, we do a lot of high end now. I mean, we've got, clients that we sign NDAs with to move them across the country, across the world. Um, that type of clientele, and aligning our brand now, I'm having that same controversy of how much money are we going to lose on the day to day that keep our guys busy to push further into that market to be that luxury guy. Um, but I still got to keep the bills paid. So it's interesting concept that you talk about there.
yeah, yeah. I think every business wants to uh, kind of climb the market, right? They want to go from the having to serve thousands of customers at a low value, like a lower price. They want to move up where they can serve fewer customers at a greater price, maximize margin. And this is something you always want to do. But at the same time, you kind of have to be honest. Like, hey, we may be a volume play. Like we may just be a high volume, lower cost offering, and sometimes you have to be okay with that, even if the next stage goal is a little bit elusive.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So I mean, you're managing a bunch of people, you're driving, probably change within your organization. So how do you cultivate a culture of change? And if you were to implement a new technology, how would you make sure that that rollout went well?
Complex question. I think the biggest thing that I hire off of is really the mindset of an individual more so than their capabilities. Um, from the most basic level of a mover, all the way up to, the people that are in the operations management positions in the company, wherever they are. Uh, I don't really care how skilled you are in something. I want to see your mindset. I want to see how willing you are to be coachable, learn, embrace change, uh, and be positive while you do it, right? And this is really what builds your team and makes them strong. And every day, the sales team, the operations team, they all have their own meetings by their leaders that are continually growing them, giving them feedback, giving them new things to enhance, whether it's a process, whether it's a sales technique, or whatever it is. So I have to say that the most important thing is making sure that you have a team that's got the right mindset, and that makes implementation and change easier when you have those people. Um, on the software side, man, if I had a couple $1 million just to throw into some software, I would build an incredible CRM, based off the stuff that we need. So again, I talked about Supermove. The CRMs that we have right now, I'm at like a 90% solution. And I think Supermove is right about there right now for me too. So I want to make this shift, as we all know how dynamic it is to switch CRMs with all the data. But I think that would be one of the biggest things. And we have to really be careful about how and when we do that. Because obviously we don't want to affect our sales team. We don't want to
Right.
make big shifts in operations that are going to cause confusion, scheduling conflicts, all those things. And we want to make sure that our sales team is effective and efficient at their process too. So um, it's got to be a slow rollout. It's got to be a learning period, and you have to phase people into the new systems and make sure that they're doing their job effectively and efficiently, while being proficient, right? To continue to maintain your status, developing and providing a quality service.
Yeah. So good. So true. Um, well, just to wrap up here, what is some advice or an experience that you've had early in your journey that you think would be helpful to the up and comer, either the person just starting their career or yeah, what advice would you give?
Don't do it alone. Um, I I have to say that all of the successes, all of the help, all of the best friends and relationships that I've made in this industry is by networking, by going to events, by learning from people that are much smarter than me, and realizing when you're in the wrong room. Um, I sat in a lot of rooms where it got to the point where I was the one answering questions, and I was paying to be in that room, for by a business coach. And you have to start to realize that, humbly, right? Maybe I'm not in the right room with the right people to give me the information that I need, because now I'm doing more of the teaching than I am the learning, right? So make sure that you go to events, make sure you network, make sure you're meeting people that are doing much better than you. And really you're at that point in their life where that's your goal or your mission or your vision for your company, and embrace every second, ask them questions, go to dinner with them, court them, wine and dine them, whatever it is. Become friends and family with them. And that's ultimately what drives success, because there's not a thing that I need now that I couldn't reach out and say, hey man, I'm really missing this documentation, or hey, what's your process look like on this? And hey, how's this marketing guy? I've got all those resources and those tools so that I can operate, and it's not costing me money to have an attorney drafted letter that's already been drafted by somebody, or implementing a process that doesn't work, right? So that is probably the the best thing that you could do as a new entrepreneur.
I totally agree. Totally agree. I'm in two mastermind groups right now, two networking groups. One is called Collective 54 for digital service companies. Most of the guys in there own some sort of digital service, consulting service of some sort. So they're great just to say, hey, how do you handle? I've been able to get on the phone with guys that have double the number of employees that I have with virtually the exact same model. So that's been super helpful. And then I'm in another one that's more personally oriented, called Rise Up Kings. That's all about faith, family, fitness, and finance. As I'm out and about, I can find guys that are maybe all about two of those things. Like at church, I can find people who are faith and family aligned. But as I got into my 40s more and more, I realized I needed four pillar men: faith, family, fitness, and finance was all important. And so I get a lot of value out of that mastermind group, just associating with business owners that want to excel in all areas of life, not just business, or not just one of those areas or two of those areas. So couldn't
Yeah.
agree more. Yeah. Any particular organizations that you're a part of other than the one that you're leading?
Um, Business. So I am, yeah. So I'm the VP of Business to Industry Development for a company that's private equity backed called Next Move.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we are trying to reshape the industry from a move management perspective, uh, by enabling the independent movers throughout the country to basically bring them business and be able to extend services that they aren't able to offer across the country for them. So my job there is really just to harbor those relationships, build our book of business so that we can continue to support them. They can make better margins, in their day to day. I'm heavily involved in the Warriors Choice Foundation. It's a nonprofit to support the mental health of disabled veterans, retired veterans. So I do a lot with them. A good friend of mine, Tony Longo, and he does a lot to non-traditional medicine. He raises canines and gives those to veterans in need. They do ketamine support therapy. They do, a lot of really non-traditional stuff, ayahuasca trips, and stuff like that around the world. So really, really cool to see the breakthroughs that have come from other people. And then I think the other portion of me that's I'm very passionate about. If I could, if money wasn't a thing in the world, I would probably fully support the go all in on the human trafficking side. So
Mhm.
I do a lot of donations to Operation Underground Railroad and some other ones, but yeah, overall, it's time is money, and I've realized that my time is now worth more than money to me. So I try to invest my time where I see fit and I enjoy it, and I get to spend time with my family rather than worrying about the next house or Porsche or whatever.
Right. Yeah, share that. If people like what you've had to share today, how should they connect with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, John Hamilton. You can reach me at john@brooksmovingandhauling.com via email, and sure you'll be able to find some stuff on me on the internet. Good.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we wish you luck in your future endeavors with both your teaching, you're teaching other haulers how to be successful, and also your business. So thank you very much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate your time.